Alright, you guys, welcome back. Great job last week on your Mario projects. We got him to slide across our 11 sprite backgrounds, and you guys use Scroll X to put those together and to make Mario move the background. Remember, he's not moving, the background is moving. So what I'd like to do today is talk to you guys about more blocks. So we're going to make two new blocks today. We're going to make a block called Up, and then we're going to make a block called Animate. Now, when you make a block, what we're going to do is basically give a block a definition of what it does, and then we'll put it inside of our forever loop. So for the first block, Up, what that's going to do is when you guys are using your project with Mario, you'll notice that sometimes he sinks into the ground, and we want to prevent that from happening. So we're going to make a block that's called Up that's going to do this. It's going to forever move him up until he's not touching brown or black, and then once he is, he's going to stop. So he'll actually end up 1 pixel above brown or black. So if he's touching it in here, he'll slide up and then he'll sit right here and you won't even know the difference. But that's where we have something called screen refresh. So when we make this block for Up, we're going to have to run it without screen refresh. So with screen refresh, if Mario were to sink into the ground, we would watch us change Y by 1 until not touching that ground. There we go. Now hit stop. So hit sink and then change Y by 1 and then stop. With screen refresh off, we won't see that happen. All we'll see him do is hit and stop. So the refresh makes you see it. No refresh, we see the end result of what will happen. So let's make that block now. It's really pretty easy block. So we're going to go to more blocks. Make sure you're on Mario Big. We'll go to more blocks and we're going to make a block. Now this block is going to be called Up. And check the options. Very important here. We need to run this without screen refresh. Because if we do, like I said, if he sinks into the ground, we'll see him rise out of it. What we want to do is see him stick and stay put on top. So we don't want to see the scripts actually run. We want to see the end result. So we're going to run Up without screen refresh. Then you can press OK. Now you'll see you'll have a define Up block. And what we'll do is we just need to define what Up is. And Up is simply going to be repeating under control, repeating until not touching black or brown. And black or brown are the two colors that we use in this project right now. We are going to change these pretty soon into something a little bit more efficient, and it's going to be a little bit more defined as opposed to just those colors. But they'll work for now for this example. So we're going to repeat until not. You put the not right in there, and actually you can go right down to this OR and right click and duplicate it and take both of those and snap them in. Okay, so we're going to repeat until not touching black or brown. And what we want to repeat is his upward movement. So if he sinks, we want him to come up. So that's changing Y. So we'll go to motion and we'll change his Y position by 1. Now, if you think about this though, if his Y position is 1 pixel above the ground, think about his gravity. His gravity is always changing if he's not touching these colors. So in this define block, we're also going to have to tell the program to set the gravity to 0. That way he won't bounce. So we need to put this block now under more blocks. We'll just take this Up and we'll put Up right inside our forever block. And when we put that in our forever block, it will be moving. We'll actually put it right inside here. We'll put it right inside the black and brown. Okay. So now I'll run the program. Mario falls, and no matter how high I pick him up and drop him, he'll never go into the ground. No matter what, he'll never sink below. But if I edit, and this might or might not work, but if I edit this block and I turn the screen refresh on, let's see if I can get him to sink, and then we'll watch him slide up. There he goes. Alright, so see how that worked? So if I put screen refresh on, when I pick him up and I drop him, he sinks and slides. We don't want to see that happening. So once I have to do is go back, and I'm just going to put the screen refresh back to off. Okay, we're going to run it without the screen refresh, and I'll press OK. And when I run the program now, A, he doesn't bounce, and B, if I take him and drop him, he just sits on top. We don't have to watch that change Y by 1 happen. It just shows us what did happen, the end result. Okay, so put that inside your touching color, because up should happen if he's on the ground. And we'll move on to our next block. Now our next block is going to be a little bit trickier. We're going to animate Mario. And with Scratch, it runs at 30 frames per second. So as Mario moves and he animates, there'll be 30 frames for every 1 second that we can see. So if he had 30 costumes, we probably wouldn't have a problem. But Mario's only going to have 4 animation costumes. So when you try to run 4 animation costumes over the course of 1 second, it looks like he's on hyperspeed. So we're going to have to create a variable to slow down that actual motion, that animation. So let's go to make a block, and let's call it animate. Now this one we do want to have screen refresh. We don't want to touch this time, because we want to make sure we see the animation happen. So we'll take animate and we'll press OK. Okay, now we have our animation block here, so we can define that. Now the Mario that I gave you only has 1 costume. He was a placeholder costume. So on Mario Big, what you'll do now is you'll go to costumes, and you'll go to upload costume from file, and if you're 7th grade, you'll go to Computer Z in 7, 8th grade Computer Z in 8, and in there will be a sprite called Mario Big. So we'll take Mario Big and we'll put Mario Big in. He's going to be your new Mario. Okay, and if you look, he's got his duck and his jump and his walk. Okay, his couple different walk cycles. And we're left now with Mario Big and Big Stand. So we can actually take care, and if you look at the screen on the stage, they're different sizes. So what we're going to do is we're going to take out Mario Big. Alright, we don't need him anymore. Now we're not going to remove him from here, okay, because he has all of our scripts. We're just going to remove the costume called Mario Big. So we'll get rid of that. Okay, so there's our Mario. And we'll take a look here, and I'll make it a little bit bigger. So now our new Mario, okay, he slides just the same, but notice now, because of the up block that we made, he is now interacting automatically with everything on the screen. Okay, he's jumping above it. It's changing Y to keep him on top. No matter what we do, he is going to change Y by 1 to go to the top while the screen refreshes. And we're going to fix this down the road, okay, a couple steps at a time. So we'll make it so that he doesn't just jump to the top of things, and we'll make it so that we don't interact with the bushes and the mountains in the background. But that's what up does right there. It just keeps him above the ground. Okay, so we're going to make a couple of limitations and maybe parameters of how high he can actually go up before up stops working. Okay, so let's go back to our costume. So we got rid of Mario Big costume. Now what we're going to do is talk about animation. So right now, if I just take this sprite and we look at all of his different frames, and I put next costume, so under key right arrow, we know we're changing scroll X, but if I just put in there as well next costume, this is going to cycle through all of his costumes. Okay, this is going to cycle through his whole range of costumes, and I just want you to see how fast he animates. Okay, so that's way too fast. Okay, he's kind of out of control there. So we're going to have to slow that down. So we don't want, and we can actually go into costumes and you can watch them run. And you can see how fast it cycles through all the costumes. So we need to create a variable that's going to slow down that changing process. So for now, let's go to data and let's create a variable. And for the variable, we're going to call this frame. And the frame really only needs to be for this sprite. Okay, it only needs to be for Mario because he's the only guy that we're worried about animating right now. So we'll say OK. And when we start the program, we're going to want to set the frame to 0. Okay, so I'll take set frame and we'll put it at 0. Okay, that's going to be nothing. Now, these costumes, if you notice under the costume tab, each costume is assigned a number. So you always want to have your costumes in sequence. So these 1, 2, 3, and 4 are his walking costumes. So they're in order. But if I were to renumber these and take his jumping and stick it in here, it would be nearly impossible to count in order for the cycle. So we'll leave jumping down below and we'll leave ducking down there. Okay? So we're going to want to cycle his costumes 1, 2, 3, 4. Then if the costume gets to 4, it should go back to 1, 2, 3, 4. Back to 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to define all of that in our animate block. Okay, but let's look at frame for a minute. What we're going to do with frame is we're going to make it a decimal. And then we're going to change the costume by it. So if we change the frame by 1, it would go 1, 2, 3, 4. So it would be running at the same 30 frames per second as Scratch does. However, if we take the frame variable and maybe make it a decimal 0.33, it would go 0.33, 0.66, 0.99, then 1, and then it would go 132, whatever, 2, 233, 3. So it would count each one of these 3 or 4 times before it went to the next costume, which would slow down his frames of animation. So let's do that now. So we're going to say that if the key left or right arrow are pressed, then we should agree that he should animate. So I'll go to control and I'll say if then else, because if he's not being moved by the left or right arrow key, then he should probably go to just a standard stance. He shouldn't move anymore. He should just stay put in his first one where he's just standing, big stand. So if we're not running right or left, he's big standing. Okay, on costume 1, which will then be named frame 1. So we're going to say if the left or right arrow is pressed. So I'll put the or in there, and we'll say if the, under sensing now, key, left arrow. You could do right arrow, right arrow, right arrow. It doesn't really matter. Okay, if key, left arrow is pressed and key, right arrow is pressed, then what should happen? Well, we're going to use that decimal 0.33 for this. So we're going to say we're going to change frame by 0.33. Okay, but now what do we want to do with that? We want to change the costume with frame. So we want to switch the costume to frame. So we need to tell that. So just like we did on our gravity variable, when we set our gravity, we had to tell y that's what gravity was acting on. This equation was acting on the y-axis. So we need to now define what is frame acting on. Frame is acting on our costume change. So we're going to go to looks and we're going to switch costume to frame. Okay, that should snap right in there. We're going to switch the costume to frame. Now, if we did this right, when I move, he should now animate, but very quickly. But notice how you can kind of see his jump animation and his duck is in there. He is animating, But if we watch our costumes, he's going through the whole cycle and including big jump and big duck. And we don't want those in there. Okay, and you'll see how we slow that down and how we eliminate those two from the animation cycle now. So we'll go back to scripts. Let me shrink my small stage layout. And inside this if, we're going to say that if the frame is greater than 4, we should set the frame back to 1. So if the frame is greater than costume 4, remember they're all assigned a number, so if the frame is greater than 4, the frame should set to 1. Then it will go 2, 3. If the frame is greater than 4, we'll go to 1. Now the reason I'm using greater than is because we're using a decimal. So it's never really going to be just 4. So we can't use equal to 4 because if our decimal comes out to 3.98, 4.28, it would never work. However, 4.28 is greater than 4. So anything greater than 4 on the frame should put it back to 1. Okay, so that's the sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4. When it gets greater than 4, back to 1. So we'll go and we'll take an if-then block. Take an if-then. Put it under switch costume to frame. And we're going to say that if frame is greater than 4 to set frame to 1. So we just go to equal sign. Operators, I'm sorry. Take the greater than symbol and snap it in. And we say if frame under data is greater than 4, then we just need to set the frame back to the first frame in his cycle. Okay, because the running cycle is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it goes, we start the run, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, back to 1. And then that should be pretty good to keep that going right there. Okay, now we're going to have a little issue though, and I'm going to check it out right now with you. So let's see if this works. Alright, and here we go. I'm going to run. Now he's stuck on that, but there goes my running. Now he's still pretty quick, and he's still going through everything. So, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Alright, I'm back. Figured it out. My mistake. It was animating without, because of my next costume still. I forgot to take this out, because the define block isn't active until we place it inside of our forever loop. So that was just my mistake there. Showing you earlier how fast it animates. So let's take this, and let's take a look at it now, using this animation. So we're going to run to the right, and now he's not animating at all, because I haven't put the animate block in. So let me put the animate block inside forever, and it's just going to wait until the arrow keys are pressed. So let's take a look. And there he goes. He's running pretty good. Okay. Now he's not facing left, so we need to fix that as well. So inside of our main loop, we just need to add under motion a point in direction under right arrow. So we have if right arrow key, change scroll X by -5, and we'll make that point in direction right. And then if left arrow key is pressed, change scroll X by 5. Let's add a point in direction -90 for left. Now let's see if Mario is able to run right and left. Okay, he goes upside down. So how do we fix that? When we animate, we have to make sure, or when we change direction rather, we have to tell the program how we want to change. So this is flipping him upside down, so he's doing a little head walk, but we don't want him to do that. We want him to flip on left and right rotation only. Okay, so we want to set the rotation style to left, right. So you just put that in the top of your forever loop, and now Mario will turn properly. He won't go upside down on you. Okay, so add those in there. And let's take a look real quick at this frame. So we see how slowly Mario's animating. Okay, you can see all of his frames, and he looks pretty good. That looks alright to me. But let's, for fun, just change this change frame by number to 1. Now what's going to happen here is he's going to animate as quickly as that next costume block made him go. However, it's only going to go through 4 different cycles. So here we go. Okay, he's on super speed here, and it's actually jumping him up to the jump one as well. Costume 5. Okay, so we're going to take this back, and we'll put our change frame back to our decimal 0.33, and that will slow down his sequence again. And now he looks like he's boogieing pretty good right there. Okay, that's alright with me. But we have a little glitch. What if we were to press both arrow keys at the same time? Okay, he's probably going to run in place. So right now I'm holding down both arrow keys. But if I'm holding both arrow keys, Mario shouldn't just run in place. We should be able to stop that animation. So we're going to have to say that if the right arrow key and the left arrow key are pressed, then we're just going to set the frame to 1. That's all we're going to have to do here, because that will just stop him from moonwalking and not going anywhere. Because this is a glitch. Okay, we don't want to be able to do that. So let's add that in. So take your if then and put it underneath frame equal to 4. Alright, make sure it doesn't go in here. It doesn't attach to the set frame because it's not dependent on the frame being 4. Okay, so it's going to go right underneath. And we're going to say that if left and right arrow key, okay, we can't duplicate this because that's or. This is now an and. Because if he's moving left or right, he should change the frame and animate. But if we're mashing down the left and the right, he shouldn't do anything. He should wait for you to stop doing that. Okay, so we'll go to sensing. We'll say key space. Change that to left arrow. Right click and duplicate that. Okay, I'll just come back here, whichever is easier for you, and go to right arrow. Because if we're pressing both down, we just got to set the frame to 1. We'll set the frame to 1. And let's see what happens. I'm holding both down and nothing is happening. So I'm running right, I'm running left, I'm holding both down, nothing is happening. See, I'm holding both there, nothing is happening. He stopped. So now we can't make him run in place, so that's good. But now we got to say this. I stopped running, and look at what frame he's on. He's stuck. So when we're not pressing those arrow keys to move, he should reset to that one right there. I just got lucky. We don't want him to just stay in a almost running position. We want to make him go back to frame 1. Okay? So frame 1 is the one that we just used up here. So if we're not pressing left or right arrow, okay, we're just hanging out, we should set the frame to 1. So let's see how we go. Okay, it didn't work because once again we didn't tell it in this part of the statement to switch the costume to frame. So I'm going to go to looks, and I'm going to switch the costume to frame, and there you go, he just popped right up. So we'll check this out. I'm running right and I'm animating. We're stopped. I'm not holding any buttons. He reset to standing. That's terrific. We go to the left. I'm going to let go. He resets to this. If I hold them both, he stops. Okay, that's really good. So pretty good so far. Okay, great job so far. So that is the animation tutorial for Mario. So starting from the beginning, you're going to go to Mario Big. You're going to upload your old sprite, the new sprite, I'm sorry. Okay, you're going to look at his costumes. Okay, they should all stay in order, so make sure you don't drag these out of order, because it just keeps the sequence easier. And then you're going to create 2 blocks today. You're going to make the block up, which was run without screen refresh, and what that did was kept him from syncing. So he's going to repeat until not touching. So he's going to sync in here, and then it's going to repeat, changing Y by 1 up until he's no longer touching by 1 pixel, and then he'll sit there. Okay? And then we also set gravity to 0, that way he doesn't stutter, because if he's not touching the ground, we know that our gravity should be working. So that way we know that the gravity is just going to turn to 0, so he doesn't bounce. And that was without screen refresh. That way we didn't see him sink and then come back up to the top. And then our other block that we just made was called animate. And our animate block said that if the left or right arrow key was pressed, we changed the frame. Now feel free, if you think that 0.33 has him moving too slowly through his cycle or too quickly, feel free to mess with that. Okay, that's yours to try out and see how it goes. You know, if you put it to 1, it's going to be running just the way Scratch runs next costume. But because we're going to use something not less than 1, it should slow it down. So feel free, play with that, see what you like. But the number that I stuck with was 0.33. I thought it looked pretty good. And then we just switched the costume to frame, and that was just defining it. So we also said that if you're holding both keys down, he shouldn't do anything. And if we're not touching anything, he's going to set the frame to 1. But we had to tell it again what frame 1 was in this else part of our argument, of this condition. Okay? So that's it. Good luck. Have fun. I hope you got this so far. I hope you've enjoyed it. Now we'll get Mario jumping in the next tutorial, and we'll get him falling in the next tutorial. So great job. Good luck. Have at it.